Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakaha Gwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. And that one woe or destruction is speaking of World War I, which is obviously past. And behold, there come two woes more hereafter. World War II, which is past, and World War III, which is quickly coming upon us. Which, if you pay attention to the news, even in the mainstream, they're talking about the possibility of a third world war and, nuclear weapons being used. And nuclear weapons will be used during the Third World War. This is 2 Peter chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. And what's going to melt the elements with fervent heat and burn up the works in the earth is nuclear missiles being shot to the ends of the earth. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? And this is speaking to the elect of the nation of Israel. With all these end times biblical signs in the process of taking place and about to come to their fulfillment, what manner of persons ought ye to be? Looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of the Most High. We should be praying that this third world war and nuclear destruction happens as quickly as possible, because once those nukes start flying, that is the end of this captivity that we're in. Us being the children of Israel, or the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in captivity under the heathens, chiefly the biblical Edomites, or the so-called white people who are currently, in control of the planet right now. They're in their heavens while we're in our hell. Because in the scriptures, heavens and hell could be symbolic for a condition. But what did it say back up in verse 10? In the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise. Once those nukes start flying, that's going to be the beginning of the end. Well, shit, not the beginning of the end. That's going to be the end of Esau, Edom's heavens or rulership, and the beginning of our heaven. Because after the dust settles, Yahawashi, along with the 144,000 of the elect of the nation of Israel, who are fishers of men right now, out on the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up video epistles online, are going to be hunters of men. And we're, Abaratazam of that number, going to begin enslaving you heathen nations, beginning with the elites, and you're going to start building up our heaven, the kingdom of heaven, for the first 1,000 years of hardcore bondage and slavery. So you heathens are going to go into your hell. But back in verse 12, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of the Most High, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, that nuclear heat. So clearly, World War III is biblical, and nuclear destruction is biblical, and the two main players in this third woe is going to be the United States of America and Russia, which brings me into the article I'll be profiling in this video on RT.com titled, Nuclear War Won't Happen, says top Russian shaman. Kara Ul Dapchun has said peace negotiations are the only way forward. But as we just read in Revelations and 2 Peter's, a World War III and nuclear war will happen. And as it says in Isaiah 55, verse 11, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall return unto me void, and it shall accomplish that which I please. No peace talks, nuclear weapons bans or treaties. Anything these heathens can do will avert biblical prophecy from coming to its fulfillment. The supreme shaman of Russia, Kara-Ul Dapchun-Ul, has predicted that there will be no nuclear war. This is so much for him being a shaman, being a holy man, but has warned that the West must come to its senses and realize it cannot defeat Moscow. Hey, he was at least right on that, because in biblical prophecy, the Most High set up Russia to, be the main heathen nation to take down the United States of America. During a visit to the Russian capital on Thursday, the head of the Khazal Adgaeren, or the spirit of the bear, which is a very spiritual, because in the scriptures, the Russians, besides being known as Gog in Ezekiel chapter 38, the North Country in Jeremiah chapter 50, and the Medes, the spiritual Medes in Isaiah chapter 13, are also known as the bear in Revelation chapter 13. And Russia is known for using the bear as one of their symbols. This is Revelation chapter 13, verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And this beast is talking about Esau Edom, the so-called white man's power structure throughout the ages. And where did it begin? And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. Esau began really coming into his power with what? The Grecian kingdoms, led by Alexander the Great, Alexander the Macedonian. That leopard in Daniel chapter 2, as well as Daniel chapter 7. And Alexander the Great was known for having a leopard's pelt on his horse, and his helmet, I believe, was in the shape of a leopard's head as well. And his feet were as the feet of a bear. And your feet are what? At the bottom of your body for your stability. And the bear is speaking of the Russians, who are going to help in bringing about the end of Esau Edom's, power structure, that so-called Western world, even though the Russians are Edomites as well. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion, which is representative of Great Britain. And when you look at some of the symbols of Great Britain, it was a lion. And the United States of America, the main, force within Esau Edom's current power structure, came out of Great Britain. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And that dragon is speaking, of the ways and the practices of the ancient pagan Roman Empire, which, was Esau Edom's glorious, claim to fame in history. Whenever you hear these Edomites talk about, the greatness of their civilization, they'll always go back to what the Greeks and especially the Romans, and what has been trending on TikTok lately, people looking up the Roman Empire. And the dragon giving him his power, his seat, and his authority is this last leg of Esau Edom's rulership, taking on that same ancient pagan Roman spirit, its practices, its customs, its laws, and its ways of life in this NATO EU structure, the Western world, which the U.S. is a part of, which is that last leg of the fourth beast in Daniel chapter 2, those iron toes mixed with miry clay, the reincarnated Roman Empire. But again, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. That's representative of Russia, and Russia is going to be the main heathen nation that's going to lead these other nations in taking down Esau Edom's power structure. Because what? When you swipe at somebody's feet, or what they talk about your Achilles heel being a weakness, that takes off your whole stability and brings you down. But again, during a visit to the Russian capital on Thursday, the head of the Kaizo Atgeeren, Spirit of the Bear, shaman organization, told RIA Novosti that if a foreign nation resorts to the use of nuclear weapons, then Russian nuclear weapons will cover the world. Therefore, they are afraid, and only negotiations and a peace treaty are needed. Peaceful negotiations, if those countries wish, Dak Chun-U said. He further claimed that the West needs to understand that it is impossible to defeat Russia. And hey, it's not because this shaman said it, it's because biblical prophecy has proclaimed it from the beginning. Now I'm going to jump down to about right here. What does that other article say? NATO website calls for nuclear war preparation. NATO, meanwhile, has published an article by retired American defense official Gregory Weaver, who called on the West to embrace nuclear war and prepare to fight and win a limited nuclear conflict against Russia. The former nuclear and missile defense advisor to the Joint Chief of Staffs also suggested that the U.S. should move more deep precision strike capabilities to Europe and boost its nuclear capabilities on the continent, while NATO should form several modern armored divisions in the Baltic states and Eastern Europe. I say with this article, but at the end of the day, that's all futile because it's prophesied for the United States of America to go down and Russia to have a major hand in it. And a lot of these weapons that the United States has and her European ally countries, hey, they're going to be turned against her by her own European allies during World War III. But now, let's jump to Jeremiah chapter 50. I'm going to start at verse 9 and jump around a bit. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, the virgin daughter of Babylon, Babylon the Great, which is the biblical name for the United States of America, an assembly of great nations from the North Country, the North Country being Russia, because what's north of America, Canada, that Arctic Ocean region, and then the bear, Russia. And it's a well-known fact that Russia shooting its missiles from the north across the Arctic to the United States of America would be the shortest trajectory time for those missiles to reach the U.S. And also over the last couple of years, Russia has been heavily building back up its military presence in that Arctic Ocean region, nuclear capable. And that assembly of great nations are not only Russia's allies like China, Iran, or North Korea, but also America's own allies, Germany, France, Britain, these other NATO nations that at some point during World War III are going to turn against America and ally themselves with Russia to altogether shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto this place. Read Revelation chapter 17, verse 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast. The 10 horns representing the EU or European Union, beginning with the first 10 common markets of the EU, back when it was known as the European Economic Community, and the beast is NATO. These shall hate the whore that rides upon the beast, the United States of America, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, that fervent heat, those nuclear missiles. And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And those arrows are symbolic for those nuclear missiles, because when you see missiles fly through the sky, they look like arrows. The state of Israel has a nuclear missile called the Arrow 3, and I believe they have the Arrow 2 as well. And when the prophets saw these visions thousands of years ago, they had to describe them the best way they could with what they knew during their times. Ancient weapons of war, like bows and arrows, spears, javelins, flying swords, you name it. And then also, I believe it's the United States of America that has a protocol called Broken Arrow when they lose track of nuclear weapons. But now I'm going to jump down to verse 41. Behold, a people shall come from the north. that north country, Russia, the bear, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth, from one end of the earth unto the other, and many those great nations assembled unto the north country. They shall hold the bow, and bows shoot arrows. So what? Those launch platforms and silos that those missiles are going to be fired from, and the lance. They are cruel and will not shew mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, everyone put in array like a man to the battle against thee. O daughter of Babylon, that virgin daughter, the United States of America. And when you go to Psalms 137, about verses 7 to 9, you will see that the Edomites are synonymous with being the daughter of Babylon. Now I'm going to jump up to verse 40. As the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, and besides being known as the virgin daughter of Babylon in the scriptures, the United States of America is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8. It's very easy to see why this place is known as spiritual Sodom. It's the number one country that pushes that alphabet lifestyle, beginning with LG, onto the rest of the planet, through Hollywood, its socio-economic and political policies, etc., etc. What happened in the month of June, Pride Month, and then when Uganda came up with a bunch of laws condemning that lifestyle, what did the U.S. do? Put heavy sanctions on them. And ancient Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed with fire and brimstone from the sky. And this modern day spiritual Sodom and Gomorrah is going to be destroyed with modern fire and brimstone. Those 200 million nuclear missiles, saith Yahweh. So shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. It's going to be turned into the biblical lake of fire, from sea to shining sea, from the east coast to the west coast, from south of the border to, north of the border, so to speak. And it will be a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland where man, woman, or child will never set foot on ever again. And after a time, only desert creatures will dwell here, as it says up in verse 39. Therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. And the former United States of America is going to stand as an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looked like, how not to govern the earth, and ultimately what the punishment and judgment was for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the children of Israel, who are known as you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, primarily from America. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.